A new report says there's an immediate risk to the health and safety of both migrants and agents at border facilities. I'm Katherine Johnson in Washington with what lawmakers want to hear from those in charge of oversight and accountability.
This is a special open house for the Anaconda Job Corps, a program that was almost cut, but now is seeing new life.
6:30 on this Wednesday. Chet Lehman with you here. Missy O'Malley is off. Matt Elwell has our hump day forecast in a moment. Our top story this half hour. A report from Homeland Security is the latest evidence suggesting the crisis at the southern U.S. border is getting worse, not better. CBS's Katherine Johnson reports this morning from Washington.
Demonstrators around the nation protested yesterday, demanding facilities holding migrant families be closed. This as a new government report is adding to the growing public outrage over the living conditions in those facilities. Department of Homeland Security inspectors observed serious overcrowding and prolonged detention at 5 locations in South Texas last month. One manager called the situation a ticking time bomb. A report from the Inspector General's office says in June, Rio Grande Valley facilities were holding nearly 2,700 children. More than 50 were unaccompanied minors, younger than 7 years old. The report noted instances of detainees looking for ways to get out of their cells, if only temporarily. It says some would clog toilets with mylar blankets and socks in order to be released from their cells during maintenance. The DHS acknowledged the report's findings and described the situation at our southern border as an acute and worsening crisis. This week, several lawmakers visited migrant detention facilities along the border.
I've been deeply moved by what I have seen, what I have observed. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have to say something.
The House Oversight and Reform Committee responded to the report by scheduling a hearing for next week. Among those invited to testify are DHS Secretary Kevin McAleenan and the acting head of Customs and Border Patrol, Mark Morgan. Katherine Johnson, CBS News.
By the way, the House's hearing will take place on Friday, July 12th. Meantime, a federal judge in Seattle on Tuesday blocked a Trump administration policy that would keep thousands of asylum seekers locked up while they pursue their cases. 6:32 now. Meteorologist Matt Elwell joins us. A little damp in some places this morning, but it sounds like, unlike other days, it's going to get a little nicer as the day goes on.
And I think it depends on location. It's kind of that whole old adage, it's all about location, right? I do think that things will be drying out as you get later into the day, especially west of the divide. East of the divide, we still have the potential of some scattered showers, but overall, I think you're exactly right, where the day kind of gets a little drier as you get into the afternoon. But we still have a chance of some scattered showers on through the early evening, some cool rumbles possible in the Bozeman area. You can see the forecast calling for slowly clearing skies in the mining city. That spells a good thing for those heading out to the 4th of July fireworks in Butte. We'll talk more about that, of course, coming up in just a little bit.
Location.
That's it.
There you go. 6:33, our top local story this half hour. One person in the hospital after a mobile home explosion in Missoula. Missoula Rural Fire District Assistant Chief Brent Christopherson says crews were called to the Wagon Wheel Mobile Home Park for reports of an explosion shortly after midnight Tuesday. Christopherson says flames were shooting 35 feet in the air. All 4 walls of the home were blown out. One man taken to the hospital with injuries. Now the Missoula County Sheriff's Office is looking into what caused that blast. Also, the people that work to save lives and enforce the law in Bozeman are adding a new set of eyes to the job. But these eyes are in the sky. The Bozeman Fire Department and Police Department are taking a look at drone technology, giving them an added edge to different kinds of crime scenes or different ways to safely fight fires. Police Sergeant Travis Munter says the cost for the drone would be around $4,500 with the type of technology they would need, including thermal imaging. But thanks to an anonymous donor, they won't have to worry about that cost.
This piece of equipment is really used for public safety, not just the police department. So absolutely the fire department is able to use a tool like this. You know, I'm able to plug right into the command vehicle and they can see on a 42-inch TV exactly what's seen from the air.
Now, both departments say the new drone will be ordered soon. They held an open house last evening at the Bozeman Public Library to explain the project to the public. Also, investigators in Butte suspect road rage was a factor in a deadly hit-and-run crash between a car and a motorcycle back in May. Officials have now released details in the May 10th crash on Dewey Boulevard. Security video in the area shows that after the driver of the motorcycle passed a black Subaru in a no-passing zone, 2 vehicles were driving side by side at high speeds. Eventually, the Subaru was speeding directly behind the motorcycle before striking it from behind. The motorcyclist, Benjamin Harrison, died in the crash. Driver of the car, Marcus Sepulveda, was found dead 24 hours later from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Back in May, the Anaconda Job Corps was scheduled to be closed down for good, but that decision was reversed. MTN's John Amy shows us how the job training program celebrated that good news.
The Anaconda Job Corps' open house is an annual event, but this year it was more special. Last May, the career training program was set to be closed. Some Job Corps participants heard the news just before going off on training.
We wound up hearing about how the center was closing before we left, and we're like, well, this is such a bummer.
Outcry from the community and work from U.S. Senators Steve Daines and Jon Tester helped reverse that decision, and the Job Center will remain open. Participants celebrated the good news.
It's definitely a good program for people who are trying to find themselves in a way, like if college isn't best for them or they want to get out and work or find new things about themselves. We have trades here.
Senator Daines said a phone call he made to President Trump helped get the decision to close reversed, and he's delighted it will remain open.
It's an emotional moment because there was so much at stake here. We're talking about the lives of these young people, and this is giving them hope. It's giving them second chances in life.
And the young people involved in the Job Corps program say it's not only taught them an important trade, it's also changed them for the better.
Before I got here, I was not motivated at all. I didn't know what I was going to do in my future or school-wise, and I wasn't really that excited about the future, but Job Corps definitely has me excited.
In Anaconda, John Amy, MTN News.
Let's not forget the importance of all the work they do at the Job Center for the communities around southwest Montana as well. By the way, the Anaconda Job Center employs about 70 people. Also, officials in Butte broke ground yesterday on a $10 million veterans home that was decades in the making. They were celebrating the construction of the Southwest Montana Veterans Home. It's off Blacktail Loop, south of town. 60-bed retirement home for veterans was first proposed back in the early 90s.
It was important to Butte. Butte had worked on this for decade after decade after decade. In the end, we got her done. And we got her done because Butte, they go to work when the going gets tough.
That project expected to be completed by the fall of 2020. Also, U.S. Senator Jon Tester hosted an open house town hall meeting in Helena yesterday. TN's Mike Dennison was there and has our report.
At the Helena College campus, Senator Tester spent an hour taking questions from the audience, and the crisis at the southern border came up almost immediately.
There are children who are in camps and are hungry, and they're without their moms and dads, and they're desperately poor and hungry and filthy. What are you doing, and what are your staff doing about this?
Tester said more aid is needed for Central American countries, which are the source of many refugees at the border. But first, he wants more information from the Trump administration.
They assure us that they're moving the kids out and that the average stay is only like 2 weeks, 21 days, but I'm not sure I believe them. And so
they need to be with their parents.
Right. And, absolutely. They need to be reunited as a starting point. And because that's not what we're about as a country.
But when an audience member said open borders would solve the problem, Tester disagreed.
I just do not believe that. So that would be a totally different way to go that I would not support. I'll just tell you, I would not support that.
In response to a question about building needed infrastructure in the country, Tester said the Republican tax cut bill of 2017 has made it difficult to afford.
The truth is, the tax bill that we passed put us in a situation of structural imbalance that is not going to allow us to do things that we need to do, like make college more affordable, like build infrastructure. And by the way, those two things are what drives an economy in the 21st century.
And as for college affordability, Tester called it vitally important, but said Congress is doing next to nothing to address that issue, or student debt.
You can't have kids coming out of school with $20, $30, $40, $50, $60,000 in debt. And by the way, the folks that are predators with the damn credit cards that are getting a hold of these kids and saying, go ahead and ring up the bill, pay me later, we ought to be putting those folks in jail.
Tester also bemoaned GOP control of the U.S. Senate, saying Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is keeping vital issues off the floor. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
By the way, Montana's congressional delegation is in the state this week while Congress takes its 4th of July break. We're going to take a quick break here. Here's what